Hockey, let's do this. The Cult of Hockey podcast by the faithful, for the faithful. I'm Bruce McCurdy from the Edmonton Journal's Cult of Hockey, and I'm here tonight with my colleague Kurt Leavins. Good evening, Kurt.
Hello, Bruce. I'd ask how you're doing, but I think I've got a pretty good idea.
I'm in a pretty sour mood, Kurt. I'm looking at the soccer game on the TV that I could have been to, but I committed to watching and recording and grading the Oilers game, and the Oilers rewarded me with a pretty bad game.
Yeah.
So I'm not in a very happy frame of mind at this moment, other than Canada is currently leading Costa Rica. So you might see me glance over there periodically, but let's focus on the podcast first. We're going to talk about Buffalo Sabres 3-2 win in regulation over Edmonton Oilers, and the so we're going to go with our usual 2 good things, 2 bad things, and 2 numbers. And we're struggling to have enough good things to go around, even if we only do one each. So we're only going to do one each. And Kurt, I'm going to let you take the lead. What's your good thing from this game?
That's gracious of you, because there weren't very many to pick from. So I get the pick of the litter, as it were. Well, I thought the best Oiler by quite a fair stretch was the same Oiler who was the best Oiler last night, who was Leon Draisaitl. Tonight, Leon scored 2 more goals, continues to lead the league in that way. Had 8, count them, 8 shots on net to pace the club in that respect. Led the team in ice time, 25 minutes, 20 seconds of ice time, including 7:05 on the power play. And then if you turn to the fancy stats, I mean, what an incredible night he have. If you look at all events CF, Leon was 38-9, 81% all events. And just for a bit of ice cream on top of that particular Sunday, 70% on his face-offs as well. Fair to say, if every Oiler had performed as well as Leon tonight, we would have had a different outcome.
Yeah, well, that's right. Leon did get the job done. Unfortunately, he lost the key face-off at the very end of the game that they couldn't afford to lose with about 20 seconds on the clock, but he was doing well there. All events, of course, that included roughly 6 Oilers power plays. There was a bunch of chopped up power plays tonight, but officially I think they went 2 for 6 on the power play, and that's when Leon got both of his goals. And I thought this was kind of opposite of last night's game. I thought the Oilers got the benefit of a couple of iffy calls tonight.
Agreed.
And they scored 1 goal after one iffy call that had the fans in Buffalo a little bit sour. But for all the special teams advantage they had, they couldn't close the deal at even strength. So Leon at 5-on-5, so not counting all the power play time and the goalie out time at the end of the game, he was still 22-9 for shot attempts, 13-6 at even strength total carrying the play by Edmonton, but 0-1 on goals, because they were not able to solve Dustin Tokarski at even strength, and the big line got put together late in the second by Dave Tippett, got beat for the game-winning goal in the last minute of the second on a fairly critical series of errors. Big night for the big man. He's now up to 14 goals, 14 assists through 13 games. First guy to have that many goals at this stage of the season since Alex Ovechkin, and I think they said 08-09 season. And he's had 6, count them, 6 2-goal games already. So
and that 25-20 of ice time, of course, on back-to-back road games as well.
Yeah.
So there, you know that he was running low in oil. Certainly nobody on the Edmonton side played a perfect game tonight. But if I had to pick anybody who stood out in the best way, it would have been number 29.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to pick out number 22, Tyson Barrie. On the back end, I thought he was the best of Edmonton's defensemen, which is kind of a low bar in this game. I wasn't very enthused with many of them. But Barrie, same thing, very prominent individual and and team counts when he was on the ice. 8 shots on net himself, 11 shot attempts, tied with Leon for the club high in both categories. Of course, he played a lot on the power play. When he was on the ice at 5-on-5, shot attempts 22-11 for Edmonton, shots on goal 14-6. He made no mistakes on goals against. The third pairing was the one line duo that did not get burned for a goal. And I don't suppose he played a perfect game, but again, the bar is pretty low, and the list of Oilers who played a perfect game is small indeed. In fact, I would put it at flat 0.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll single out Tyson Barrie for at least pushing the play in the right direction and trying to make things happen. And he let go a couple of real good hammers from the point too. They set him up for shots from outside, and he was at least testing Tokarski.
Yep. 3 high danger chances, 4-2 against. While he was on the ice, and that one shot from the power play, I actually thought went in and bounced out of the net. It actually just missed the net by an inch or so. Heck of a good low point shot. So I agree. Barrie was the best of a struggling lot on the blue line for the Oilers tonight.
All right, let's move on to our bad things. I could give you a nice long list here, Kurt, but again, let's just do one each and let's get through this ordeal of trying to analyze this stinker of a game. So I'll let you pick one sort of a meta bad thing.
Well, I'll pick the fact that this was the third game in 4 nights, and the second of road games on back-to-back nights as well. Is that an excuse? Absolutely not. But I think you could quite obviously see physical and mental fatigue in the Oilers game all night long. Anybody will tell you once you start to get low on oil out there, not only do you start to lose the ability to make plays with the same crispness and clarity that you typically would, but you don't make as good of decisions when you're sucking air either. And the Oilers certainly sucked tonight, including air. And so I really think, while that's not an excuse, and all teams in the league have to play those games, I still thought it was obvious that they were down a court. I thought the only guy who really had jumped tonight all game long was the only forward who didn't play last night, who was Tyler Benson, who I thought had a reasonable evening, all things considered. And everybody else, I thought we saw in various stages of fatigue. And I thought that showed in probably a dozen players' game tonight.
Did you think the ice was bad, or were they just not able to click on plays? Like, there was no flow to the game for large stretches of it.
Yeah, you know what? On one hand, I wondered if it was the ice, but then I thought, well, no, Buffalo was kind of having the same issues. The only difference is, on paper, there's a big difference in the quality of these two teams. So I don't mean any disrespect to Buffalo. They won the hockey game tonight, but you'd kind of expect them to kick the puck around a little bit.
Right.
And you wouldn't with our guys. So, yeah, I saw the same thing going on as you did. I'm not sure I was able to parse what exactly it was. It seemed to be happening for both sides. And I guess my expectations were just set a little higher for one side than they were for the other.
Well, I would make the case that Edmonton had the 5 best forwards in this game. Because Buffalo, I mean, they don't have a great set of forwards to begin with. They just traded Jack Eichel, but they're missing guys, Victor Olofsson and Alex Tuck that they just got in the trade, and a third significant forward whose name slips my mind at this moment. And they were digging pretty deep into the depth chart, and yet, anyway.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, an observation related to that, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who give him credit for the 2 assists that he earned tonight. But I think his goalless streak is officially in his head. I think we could see it every time he got the puck within range of the net. It's just he was double clutching and double guessing himself, and I think it's officially bouncing around inside his helmet now, and he needs one to go off his button in so that he can get off of this schneid.
Yeah, he had a couple of what looked like good looks, and the pucks never even got through. So they had, The pucks never even got through. So it was, and it just, like you say, double clutching, and he's for all that he's pouring in the assists now, 17 after tonight, I believe. 0 and 17. So 17 points in 13 games, that's terrific. But I thought he played a lot, and he got the 2 secondary assists, but I didn't think he played all that well. Just 1 shot on net, 0 for 5 in the face-off dot. And anyway, so I'm going to go more broadly than that. I'm going to paint with a broad brush on my bad thing, though, and I'm going to just discuss Edmonton's 5-on-5 play. What you think about it, this is a game that Edmonton scored 2 goals on the power play, and the penalty kill was 3 for 3, I believe, officially.
Yep.
And so they had, with a 2-0 advantage in special teams. That's been their format for winning games all year, is that they win on special teams and they break even at even strength, or they win by 2 at special teams and they lose by 1 at even strength, and they still win the game. And tonight they lost by 3 at 5-on-5, and he couldn't even get a point out of a night the special teams went +2. And that 5-on-5 play just didn't cut it. And there was long stretches, even after they got the lead 2-1. And it was just poor attention to detail. They were struggling to get out of their own zone. They were struggling to get into Buffalo zone. They were struggling to get shots through. They were out of sync. Like, how many times did Edmonton pass the puck out of Buffalo territory because somebody passed a blind pass to nobody at all, and it just went out into the center ice zone, several. And they took way too long to get going. I mean, with just over 6 minutes left, the shots were 23-22 Buffalo, and they ended up 35-23 Edmonton. So in the last 10% of the game, they outshot Buffalo 13-0. Well, where was some of that earlier in the game? Like, it was clear that this was going to be a tough game to win from early minutes to me, and I just didn't see them dialing it up until way, way, way too late in the game. And yes, back-to-back, yes, 3 and 4 nights. I'm not entirely satisfied that they took this opponent seriously enough and stuck to business. And when they did make mistakes, my goodness, they were howlers. Like, Buffalo got basically all their goals were on counterattack breakaways, or next thing breakaways. And Edmonton didn't have any of that. Buffalo protected, and Edmonton's defensive game was just loosey-goosey, and they got caught out 3 different times for goals, and a few other times where Stuart Skinner made the saves, but it was just not good enough, frankly, to me. They were it's hard to say they were the second best team on the ice, even when you look at all the numbers and so on, but they left it too late, and they couldn't turn it on near early enough that they needed to. Like, they went through the first 10 minutes of the third period without a shot, down by 3-2. And it's like 8, 9, 10 minutes into the third, and the announcer's saying they still haven't got 1 shot in this period.
And then headed in the other direction, they surrendered 4 clear breakaways, and as you mentioned, they scored on 3 of them, rebound on a breakaway shot on another one. And 2 of them, ironically enough, came on the defense pairing that was so good last night. Cody Ceci and Duncan Keith, I thought, had their best game of the season last night, and tonight was arguably their worst. And for poor old Cody Ceci, 0 high danger scoring chances for, 4 against, including coughing up the one at the blue line that went for a breakaway. Duncan Keith, with the entire left side of the arena open, tried to force a pass up the middle to McDavid that didn't get through. It ended up in the back of the net. Like, for the love of God, man, it was just, one of those, even 2 of those a game, that's going to happen. 4? That was pretty hard to stomach.
Yeah. Anyway, so the 5-on-5 play in general let them down. And even, the power play, it wasn't that sharp, but they did manage to generate those 2 quick goals on, one was sort of an opportunistic play by Draisaitl, and the other was a nice give and go with Connor and Leon, which you're going to get hopefully at least once a game. But they were, they spent a lot of time chasing the puck back to their own end because they they weren't able to keep control of it. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, you know what? I think that's fair, but at the end of the day, I think you'd agree. If your power play is at 33%, you don't give up a shorthanded goal, you should win, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, at
Agreed.
minimum, you should get a Bettman point. That's what Calgary got tonight. Calgary gained a point on Edmonton by losing, but at least managing to get the game to extra time. And
yes, sir.
So, all right, let's move on to numbers. What do you got for a number tonight, Kurt?
4. The Oilers have surrendered the first goal in the last 4 games now. And as Dave Tippett has said many times, even when you have an high-powered offense, arguably the best offense in the league in the Edmonton Oilers, if you're going to chase games night after night after night, you're just going to drop some of them because the odds are going to work against you. And arguably they worked, against them tonight. Shots ended up 35-23, as you say. But if you're always starting from behind, it's just going to catch up with you after a while. And they have to come up with a solution to this. I mean, the last time they scored the first goal was, I think, in the Nashville game.
Yes.
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's
they
go ahead.
The last 4 games in a row, not only did they give up the first goal, but they were trailing after the second period in all 4 of those games. Twice they came back to win it in the third, and twice against teams you think they should be able to beat, Detroit and Buffalo. They were unable to score in the third period, and they were basically looking at a 3-2 deficit the whole stretch of the game. I think in Detroit they actually did get one in the first minute of the third to cut the lead to 3-2, but same thing. They've been playing from behind for several games now, and that's playing with fire. And you can get all the confidence in the world that, yeah, we can score whenever we want. Well, tonight, they when they did want to score, it seemed at the end they just weren't able to manufacture the one goal they had to get.
Well, if you're drawing up the plan for this road trip, and if you had said they're going to be 1-2 after the first 3 games, would have you thought that they'd won the game in Boston and lost both the games in Detroit and Buffalo?
No, I would not have. So my number is, I got a few numbers. 21 block shots for Buffalo, 6 for Edmonton. I thought Buffalo was doing a good job sort of swarming their low slot and getting bodies in the way, and Edmonton was unable to get the shots through the traffic. And it was so that was a key figure. Edmonton had 8 hits in this game, Kurt. Only 3 Oilers had any hits at all. Brendan Perlini
had 4, right?
He had half of them. Yeah. And Sevier and McDavid had 2 each. And the whole rest of the team, at least not credited on the score. And to me, it was a no-hitter kind of a game. Like, I'm not saying the scorer in Buffalo was particularly tough or anything. It just was not a physical game, and it was a game that could have used a little bit of physicality from Edmonton's point of view. But
and of those 6 block shots, 4 of them were by Chris Russell.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. So 1 by Sevier, he really paid the price on one, and 1 for Keith. And so those are the maybe unimportant numbers in some senses, but it's to me, it's a little bit about battle level. And, when Buffalo did get the puck in Edmonton's territory, they had a lot of wide open space to do something with it. So I'll just pick those 2 out of the morass of numbers, and otherwise, I mean, shot shares and stuff looks good. Score effects, driving play very hard indeed. And 37-20 in the faceoff dot for the Oilers, but again, they weren't able to win the one at the end when they absolutely had to have it.
And I think it's, as you mentioned to me earlier, I think it would be fair to say you would have liked to have got an extra save out of Stuart Skinner. Yet I think in back-to-back starts, I think you can say he gave his team a puncher's chance to win.
Yeah. Well, in both of his games,
and if he's your third goaltender, right?
In both of the games that Skinner played, I think his team let him down.
I'd agree with that.
It bothers me to say that, but I would have thought they would have had a little bit more in the tank for the young goalie tonight after what happened in Detroit. And this game was actually, to me, worse than the Detroit game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
So I thought Detroit played good the other night. Buffalo is just not that good of a team, and yet somehow.
No. I'll give Buffalo credit for, you know what, they jammed up the middle of the zone pretty good. They fought hard. I think they knew they were seriously outmanned, and unless they played with great detail and a bit of jam, they wouldn't have a chance. And to their credit, I think they did. Although I'm not so sure Buffalo won this game as Edmonton lost it.
Yeah, that game was there for the taking for Oilers, and they just didn't take care of business. When the game's 90% over before you turn it up a bit, it's not a good sign. Anyway, as you can probably tell, I'm pretty frustrated with my team tonight. I just don't think they didn't have it. I mean, we're going to give them a break in terms of how many games have they played so far where they had an average failing grade on the roster. I think none. But we'll get to that part soon. But I'm a little sour about the commitment level shown in this game. So
I don't blame you. It's this, as a wise man once said, this just plain wasn't good enough.
Right. Oh, sorry. All right, Kurt. Well, let's leave it there. And,
let's go watch soccer.
I think Kurt might be my watchword for my grades that I'm about to be writing here. If you don't mind my with the C.
You go ahead and use my name in vain. I don't mind.
I'll spell it different though, just out of respect for you, Kurt.
Oh, bless you, my friend.
All right. Well, let's leave it there. Thanks very much for filling in for David, who's got a hockey event down in Alex, Alberta tonight, and we'll be back in place shortly. Well,
notwithstanding the result on the scoreboard, it's always good to talk to you, Bruce. Take care.
Yeah, you bet. Thanks, Kurt. And thanks to you, the audience, for listening. This has been another edition of the, almost blew it. In the meantime, and in between times, this has been another edition of the Cult of Hockey podcast. Bye now.